The mobile landscape has just been an incredible amount of growth. That growth means opportunity to engage your customers at a whole new level and really drive your business with those customers. So some data. We'll start out with something maybe a little on the absurd side. This is about a year and a half old, but I think it gets the point across. 6.8 billion people on the planet, and fewer of them have a toothbrush than actually a cell phone. So interesting stat we picked up from 60secondmarketer.com, but something we're running in actually as a stat in a mobility campaign we'll be launching pretty soon. Just again, I think it really gets the point across. And before I lose you all thinking about, brushing your teeth, let's get back to some other data. In terms of shipments, so I think this really tells you where things are going from a device perspective and who's, what people are buying, smartphones and tablets. As you can see combined, especially from the smartphone perspective, it's pretty impressive trajectory as far as the shipments of those devices compared to our old friends, TV and PC. I'm sure at one point, many years back, PC was on a similar trajectory, and a long, long time ago, TV was probably showing a similar line to that. But obviously, smartphones and tablets are really on the rise. What does that mean with all those devices being purchased? 2013 to 2014, you can see, 2013 globally, 14% of page views were, of total web usage were on mobile devices. That's already in 1 year jumped up to 25%, and obviously it's just going to keep skyrocketing. Q1 2014, the amount of mobile data traffic was more than all of 2011 combined. And year over year, there's 65% increase from Q1 2013 to 2014. So obviously just people are doing more and more on mobile. And as more I talk about this from a data perspective, all I picture is, this, because I see this all the time. How many people see this all the time? People just walking. It's all you see. People heads down walking anymore because they're on their mobile devices. So looking out a few years, what is this? What's it look like from a device perspective? Obviously, it's just pretty staggering when you look at that from a smartphone perspective, as far as the data traffic by device and where things are headed. So there's some data. Just want to come back to from a perspective standpoint. Think about this from a connectivity, connectedness mindset. Think about it in the last several months. How many people in this room have said, I went on Facebook? Hands? Anybody? Yes, sure. Everybody. I tweeted it. I Googled it. I used GPS. I heard it on Pandora. We saw it on Netflix, or I pinned it. Pretty common terms these days. Everybody's using it. What you don't hear anymore, pretty much, is I'm going on the internet. It's just become such an ingrained way of life anymore. We're all doing those things without even thinking anymore that we're on the internet. I think it's pretty telling where we've come in just a few years. I can remember, I'm going online, I'm getting on the internet and stuff. Jokingly, I'm getting on the interweb, how we used to, but those are the phrases we use now. I think that speaks volumes of where, how far we've come in a very short time. When you look at this from a browser versus apps perspective, it's pretty interesting. Apps, obviously, so many people are on apps doing gaming and Facebook. How many gamers we have in here? Just curious. Only one gamer? Come on. People aren't being honest. There's got to be more than that in here. Ken, you didn't raise your hand. That's not what Johnny was probably saying to him. Come on, Ken. I think interesting point to this, though. I mean, you see 14% browser, and you're like, well, maybe you think, why shouldn't I be on creating more apps and stuff? But from an app perspective, and I think relative to a lot of people in this room, if you look down at the bottom left, news, productivity, utilities, type of things maybe you would be developing apps for. It's pretty even as far as, use a web browser versus an app and stuff. So a lot of the other stuff, gaming, Facebook, Twitter, I mean, it's obvious where a lot of people are spending their time on their mobile devices. So I think to just kind of close with a lot of data points here, the interesting thing, you look at all that growth, where things are headed, and it's almost like we're scratching the surface here when you look at this. As far as up through 2013, the amount of smartphones that have basically been sold as a part of overall mobile phone user base, it's only at 30%. So there's just a lot more growth there that certainly will impact all of us sitting in this room. Change is not a destination, just as hope is not a strategy. And I think it's important to think about that in the sense, change is just constant in the mobile world. So thinking about how mobile technology can impact your business's growth, thinking about what's on the horizon, being aware of what's on the horizon, understand what's on the horizon in mobile technology and how that can impact your business growth, but also thinking about being able to adapt, pivot, adjust, correct when new technologies come along. They're all important elements, and basically why you need a strategy when you're going to be working in this field or producing web apps or just supporting your business on the mobile front. And that's kind of at the core of what we do. If you saw in the agenda where I highlighted strategy, design, technology, those are really the three pillars of Liquid and what we bring to clients like yourselves. We start out with strategy, and almost everything we do, we want to make sure we engage you and come up with a strategy. That includes mobile, that includes a broader digital strategy. That could be smaller along the lines of marketing or our content strategy, but it's a core of what we do. We assess your situation, like to work with you, identify your gaps between your current and desired states, where you want to go with your business. Once we do that, understanding the opportunities as they relate to your business, your audience needs, and then obviously recommending a roadmap and getting you on the right path for your strategy. And why we do it? Because strategies inform. And the strategy helps inform your competitive and industry positioning, your audiences, your internal capabilities, obviously your goals and KPIs. Overall, it serves as your guide, basically, and making sure we're on the right path to achieving success with your business. In terms of internal capabilities, you can see, and I think this highlights a little bit why a strategy can be very helpful, because there are a lot of facets when it comes to web apps and mobile and everything you need to do and have in place to support that. Just many things come into play when you're thinking about that, and why a strategy is important to help you there and produce that roadmap. So key considerations for mobile strategy for web and app. Definitely it's not necessarily one or the other. The utility, the value, the purpose is really going to decide, what you want to do from a web app perspective, what you need to do, on mobile web. Remember, the bar has been set high. Your users expect beautiful, interactive experiences. You think about some of the apps you use on a regular basis, or some really good mobile responsive websites you visit. They're really good interface. Facebook, things you're on, you're used to. Sometimes that's just because you get used to them over time. But there's some really good, rich, interactive apps out there that I think you get accustomed to, and you expect very high level of experience. Search, especially on mobile web, it's very important that your brand is set up well on mobile web, because generally through search, so many people pulling up Google right there on their mobile device are going to find your brand on search, and you want to have that really good first impression for your brand. And analytics are essential, obviously, and Larry's talk a little bit more when he gets into things on the app side and on the technology side, but before, during, and after, understanding what your users are doing helps govern what you're going to build, and obviously tracking what you do on mobile web and even with your apps, and paying attention to how they're using those two different areas, and being able to respond once you see what's in the analytics. And content is the liquid, we like to say, and the web and the app is container. We really put a heavy focus on content and a content strategy, whether we're developing a website or a mobile app. Because really that content helps drive the design. And then if we're developing a responsive site and you have both, you want it to fit different devices, it's really important for us to look at that content, how that content needs to interact when you're going from a large desktop screen down to a small smartphone device. So to us, the content and getting the content right from the beginning, understanding what the message is and how that needs to play out across different devices is very important. Again, just some key considerations when you're developing apps: integration with third parties. Obviously, you want to introduce social sharing and location context capabilities. It's important to consider when you're building those apps. Distribution, which stores you're going to go out to, Android and Apple. Make sure you're set up to be able to update any of your apps, especially when you have third-party services in those apps. And obviously, how to keep the data secure on the device. So one last thing I want to talk about, just mobile marketing strategy. Again, so we're talking all things mobile marketing. We do a lot of digital marketing. For our clients out here, we do digital marketing for us. So I want to just hit a little bit on mobile marketing strategy. And obviously should be part of your larger marketing plan. Apps and responsive landing pages are generally your destinations for whatever you're doing for your marketing plan, your digital marketing plan. And you're driving traffic to those pages through mobile search, mobile display media, social media, text, notifications are always to drive traffic to those destinations. Some of it depends on the goals. Here's just kind of a quick glimpse at, depending on your goal, whether you're trying to generate awareness to, conversion, building brand loyalty, different tactics for, different goals, basically. Our approach, I think there's a couple things to take away from the approach. From a mobile side, you're dealing with customers, they're on their most personal communication device. So while you want to be careful, not spam them, through too much, using text, things like that, there's just so many new and unique things to do. You want to have fun with it. Try to have fun with it. If you're not having fun with mobile marketing, then you may want to ask yourself, why are you doing it? But it's just, there's just so many new things and new techniques and fun things to do out there from a mobile marketing perspective, especially when you think about what consumers do on their phones as far as playing games and entering contests and receiving texts, downloading applications. It's really an area where you can explore, have some fun with, and come up with really some creative ideas as far as marketing. Geo-target, that was the other thing I wanted to mention. Geo-target, again, you have the capability, people are walking around with their phone, target them based on where they are from a location perspective, but you can also keep that in mind. Technology is, as creepy as it sounds, sometimes coming along where you can actually identify they may be close to one of your stores, and be able to capture and hit them with a notification. Some people are like, that's great, I want to be notified of that. So the capabilities, especially from a geo-targeting perspective, are very, very strong there, and something you need to look at from your mobile marketing strategy. Responsive design, which Steve's going to get into a little bit, talks a little bit about how we can design interfaces that work across multiple devices. But I think this is a telling as far as maybe how far we've come in the last few years. This was a quote from a meeting I was in a couple years ago where when a meeting participant was asked if the site they visited was responsive, that was their response. Obviously not what we were talking about, and I think it shows how we've come a long way now, hopefully out there, but I know with us, responsive, we don't even have to say responsive web design or responsive design anymore. We say responsive, and we know what we mean. We're building a site that's, a website that's going to really work across every device that it's viewed on.